Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Conscious Lover series. My name is Miko Lau, and I am a men's intimacy coach devoted to guiding men back to their hearts so they can have extraordinary love and amazing sex. So joining us, we have Shako Lokman. Shako is an international men's coach focusing on communication skills as a foundation of creating a healthy and conscious masculine essence, hence leading to authentic confidence and relationships. So with that being said, Shako, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome.
Thank you, Miko. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for creating this space.
Yeah, amazing. So before we jump right in earlier, we talked about you tuning in from Denmark. I'm just kind of curious, share with our listeners, maybe some of them tuning in right now are also based in Europe. What is it like out there right now? Is it fun living out in Europe? What are you up to nowadays?
Yeah, definitely. So my background is actually Kurdish. So my parents are Kurdish and so am I by original heritage. But I grew up my entire life in Australia, in Sydney. And I moved to Europe, which has been a dream of mine since forever, basically. And now I live in Copenhagen, Denmark. And even though I'm a communication and social dynamics coach, I'm actually ironically pretty introverted. And one of the things that I really appreciate about European cities, such as Copenhagen, where I'm at, is the fact that it's very low-key, relaxed, and cozy. So life is pretty good here. It's pretty simple. I don't have to drive a car around anywhere. Like basically having a bicycle gets me from one side of the city to the other. So it's pretty cool here, actually.
That's so convenient. It's funny because my car has been having issues lately, and I've been without a car for 4 months. No, not 4 months, 4 weeks now. And being here in Southern California, it's a little bit challenging, but it's beautiful to be able to slow down and sometimes not rushing to put from place to place with the car. It's really forces us to slow down and be present, which kind of leads me into my next question. And I'm really excited to talk about this topic of masculine essence, because as a woman that at the core, that's very feminine. I just get turned on with the thought and the idea of being in the masculine presence and being in a strong masculine essence. So would you mind sharing with our audience, with our listeners, what that means and what that looks like?
Absolutely. Firstly, I want to acknowledge, Miko, that it's really beautiful that you acknowledge, accept, and embrace your femininity, because in return, that is actually very attractive to any masculine man. So it's beautiful that there's a bit of a polarity in where you're coming from and who you're speaking to, not just me, but in terms of the guests that you have on. I've noticed a lot of them are men's coaches, masculinity coaches, that sort of thing. So the polarity creates a beautiful dynamic for conversation. But to answer your question, masculine essence is essentially tapping into who you authentically are. That's what I truly believe. Now, this doesn't mean that it solely applies to men. I believe it generally does apply to men, probably 90% of men. But you see, for example, homosexual relationships where there's always somebody who's more masculine in their essence and somebody who's more feminine, because that creates the attraction, the polarity that creates that attraction. So for somebody who is naturally more inclined into their masculinity, what that looks like and what it means is somebody who creates safety in their energy, in their words, in their actions, and in their leadership as well. But first and foremost, in their energy, as I said. And a huge part of that energy, Miko, is creating that safe container by being present, by being the one who is conscious and observing what's happening without reacting, which is something that you can practice. Not everybody is deeply in touch with their masculine essence. In a nutshell, that's what masculinity is to me. It's somebody who can create a safe space for themselves and for others. And I say for themselves because if a man, I'll just refer to men for the sake of the conversation in terms of masculinity. For a man to be truly masculine in the healthiest, most conscious way possible for others, for his partner, for his family and his peers, he first and foremost needs to be the most conscious and loving leader for himself. And that is done by creating a safe space for yourself, first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean, just being in your presence, I can feel how much you embody the work that you teach. I can experience the safety that you are offering just by kind of receiving what I'm sharing with you and then reflecting that back, acknowledging what I'm sharing. Like that makes me feel so safe. And I really, really appreciate that as a woman in her feminine core, because the reason why I'm so drawn to doing this work, like from my history, from my previous experience, being in the presence of a man that's not fully rooted in his presence, his core, it feels so unsafe for me to fully express myself, to fully be my joyful, playful, spontaneous kind of version of myself. And sometimes that hurts, right? So, but I also recognize that as a woman, that this is a two-way relationship, that as a woman, we get to evoke and inspire the man to be in his power, to be in his strength. So I kind of want to dive deeper into that, in this conversation of it's not fully just all on the guy to do the work, but in the dynamics of a relationship, let's say a woman and a man, how would you guide this dynamics? How would you, let's say, teach a woman and a man? I'm not sure if you're understanding where I'm going with this.
I do.
But yeah, I kind of want to talk about like how it's two people evoking each other to kind of be in this union, this harmony of this energy.
That is a beautiful question, and it's one that I look forward to hearing in terms of how can a woman inspire the masculine and what's her role in this beautiful dynamic, this beautiful dance of polarity. And it makes me happy because I work mainly with men, but I do have and have had a handful of female clients, and it's always a very fun conversation because it's not something that I typically talk about too often, even though it is something that fascinates me and interests me. And I think you're absolutely correct in saying it's not all up to the man to create this healthy dynamic. I believe the man has the role of leading the relationship. So that's the core responsibility in terms of a relationship, creating that safety through leadership, conscious leadership. But for women, I would say it's very much along the lines of what you teach, actually, which is allowing yourself as a woman to get into that flow of beautiful and devoted submission to a man that you trust. A lot of women have it leaves a bad taste in their mouth when they hear the word submission, and I'd love to hear your take on this as well, actually. But submission does not mean, as a woman, that you are below a man. It means complete devotion and trust for his consciousness. Because the example that you gave is a perfect one, actually, Miko. To be able to be in the presence of a man who allows you to be playful and spontaneous and creative and bubbly and unpredictable, that is one of the greatest joys of a woman, to be in the presence of a man that does not judge, that allows her to dance in her energy, in her speech, in her behavior, through her emotional communication, which may not be through words. So for your female listeners, I would encourage you to allow yourself to get into a flow and accept those who your body trusts. It doesn't mean go and submit to every single freaking guy, but it means be in a flow through your body. Do what feels good to you on a daily basis, whether it's dance, working out, singing, anything that gets you into your body and allows you to feel that pleasure that you can physically feel in your body, in your heart, which women can do much more easily compared to men. You can get in touch with your emotions with that pleasure. No matter what that looks like, by the way, it may not be pleasure in the moment. It may be some deeper, sadder, darker emotions, and that's fine as well. I think for women to not judge themselves for being emotional, something that you hear often from women in the dating scene is, I'm too much for men, or my ex told me I was too much for him. If you're in the presence of a man and you sense that you're too much for him, then you're not with a conscious man, a maturely developed man. That's my belief. And it's not up to you to change him. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to love and to create, to manifest that love in the way that you move. One of the most attractive things to a guy, I'll speak for myself, to me, is when a woman laughs and smiles and is just joyful and playful, that playful energy that you spoke about. I believe that is one of the easiest and best ways to trigger a man's masculinity. By being playful, moving, allowing yourself to actually experience the tickling of joy through your body, in your heart.
Yeah, everything that you're saying is just like sending these ripples of resonance within my entire being, because there was one specific thing that you mentioned that really just landed for me as like, for women, first of all, we cannot judge ourselves for being too emotional, right? I'm always a believer that the outside always mirrors the internal. So for me, as a woman that has so much emotions and aliveness, when I judge myself, that's what I receive in return. And the men that I connect with, it's almost like they shut down, they run away. But then that just shows me, okay, maybe I'm not being fully present with my own emotion. Maybe I'm not fully accepting myself of my wild, fluid nature. So that was a really, really powerful point I wanted to highlight. And I want to hear from you as a man, as a masculine presence. You mentioned being in the presence of a woman that's in her playful, joyful, pure, like love energy. Can you tell us some more about like what exactly happens internally for you that evokes this masculinity? Like, tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll use my own relationship as an example, actually. And I'm sure she won't mind me sharing this because it's a beautiful example. So when women go to work, they are in a masculine energy. They have to get things done. They have to be structured. They have to be firm. Maybe they have to be a leader in a managerial sense. So it's not uncommon for a woman's energy to be a little bit stiff when they come home from work. And I see that from my own partner often, frequently, especially through a stressful job. But the experience that I have when I noticed her soften, whether it's the way that it looks is poking me, dancing around me, pulling goofy faces at me, trying to shove me around, like being physical, dancing, basically acting like a little kid. To answer your question, what that creates as an experience inside of me is complete and utter love. Nothing else. Nothing matters in that moment. All I see is complete beauty. And to be able to be the one receiving that and watching her without reacting, without getting annoyed, and allowing her to dance gives me so much pleasure and love. And that's the only way I can describe it, Miko.
It's beautiful. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So now let's backtrack a little bit. I'm very curious, like, how did you get to where you're at today? I mean, clearly you've probably done so much work within yourself to come a long way. So how did you get here? What were the steps that you've taken to becoming this conscious masculine essence?
Beautiful question, Miko. So I definitely wasn't like this years ago. It's something that I've worked on very proactively. The number one thing that contributed to this transformation for me, would be integrating presence and mindfulness into my daily practice. Not just sitting down and meditating on my couch, but being present, being in my body throughout the day, in conversation, not just with my partner, but with anybody, here with you, when I'm catching up with a friend at a cafe, when I make eye contact with an old lady at the grocery store, being in my body, getting out of my head. Over the past many, many years, by the way, this has been a gradual process, and it will be, has contributed greatly, which is why actually the free gift is a guided meditation, as you'll probably mention later. But being very proactive and conscious for my mindset, I think if we speak technically, you know, talking to the guys out there, but even the women who want to integrate more consciousness into their life, which is extremely beneficial, I would say integrate mindfulness as your priority. For any of the guys listening, if you feel like you're not masculine enough or not confident in yourself, start practicing presence. And the process of that may become violent emotionally at a certain level. A big part of this process, Miko, to get me to where I'm at the moment, where I'm completely comfortable for myself. Before the interview, you mentioned to me that you don't script these because you like to let it flow. And I can see that because your questions are so beautifully spontaneous. I can sense it in my heart. Same thing with me. I did not prepare any answers or any script for this interview. All I did was meditate and set an intention to spread love and positive energy, and that's it. And what got me to here is the presence paired with non-judgment of my own emotional states, which is why earlier I mentioned, as a man, before you can be a leader to everybody else, you need to be a leader for yourself and create that safe environment internally first. So having a healthy relationship with my emotions and learning how to do that over the past few years has contributed greatly.
Yeah, so good. When I think of presence, it's almost equivalent to potency, right? When all of you is fully here, every part of you, there's this laser energy that gets penetrated across to whoever you're interacting with, your audience, your clients. It is so attractive. It's a natural confidence that can just be felt. Yeah. So how does that, in your own experience, in your own life doing this work and also working with men, with your clients, what are some of the biggest, most powerful changes that you experience?
That I've experienced, or my clients?
Both, either or, like once you have done this work.
Gotcha. Once you've done this work, what's the greatest experience and change that you notice? I would say it is developing authentic confidence, which you pinpointed perfectly, Miko. And what that looks like, it doesn't mean that you're always going to be completely relaxed, that you're never going to feel social anxiety or nervousness, you're never going to get emotional. What it does mean is embodying and accepting absolutely anything and everything that you are experiencing in the moment. You know, what this looks like, because this affects everybody around you, right? But what it looks like for me and for men and women that I've worked with is literally realizing that you don't have to be and can't be perfect in your state, in your emotions, and in your mindset. What perfect actually means is anything that you're experiencing in the moment, even if it's rage, that's perfect. It is exactly what it's meant to be in that moment. It's acceptance, which is love.
I'm just sitting here soaking all of this in right now, because as much as I already know this kind of stuff that you're telling me, it is a lifetime of practice. It's this constant reminder of being this accepting, fully unconditional, loving space for yourself as you experience these different states. It's just so crazy how much I reflect on my own journey, that there are still so many moments that I would judge myself for feeling a certain way, being in this moment, like I shouldn't be feeling like that. But thank you so much for that reminder. I really took that in. So Shako, let's talk about bringing this to a bigger picture. I always love to ask my guest speakers this question, doing the work that we do here. You probably work a lot intimately one-on-one with individuals or in a small group setting, but let's take it to a bigger scale. What do you see the work that you do with others can change the dynamics of Mother Nature, like Earth as a whole? Where do you see this going?
This might come across as potentially controversial, but from a young age, anytime I've seen a protest or a group of angry individuals trying to make a change, look, be it from feminism or trying to stop a war, there's always been something internal within me that has felt a resistance to some part of those movements. Not because I don't believe in equality, not because I believe war is good. Absolutely not. In fact, it's the complete opposite. Deep down, I have always felt that if I embody love, genuine love, non-judgment to the best of my ability, forgiveness and acceptance of others with a beautiful, loving intention, that has the greatest impact for change. Because the way that my mind works and my heart is, if everybody did that, the world would be a better place. Not if we're angry at the other guy. If we're constantly pointing a finger at somebody else or another group, we're creating a separation. Another controversial example, and this is a very personal one, would be I never understood being proud of your nationality. Like, yes, I'm from Kurdish descent and I love being Kurdish. I love my parents, my grandparents, the culture. But I never understood how somebody can be proud of something that they didn't work for or choose to do. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. We're all human beings, and we all are trying to experience as much pleasure while avoiding as much pain as possible. So I believe through this work, we're making the world a better place simply through our little interactions, and the energy that we carry has a ripple effect. You will notice this when you start practicing consciousness, presence, love. Even if you start praying, you will notice people respond and react to you more positively. Did you notice that, Miko? Like, when you started embodying this beautiful feminine energy, you started noticing a change in how people respond around you.
Absolutely. It's always instant. Like, the world changes immediately based on the energy that you put out. It's just so fun though, but you got to be conscious. You got to be aware of what's unfolding and get out of the victim mode. I mean, I've done so much work within myself, getting out of this victimhood. And then the moment you recognize, like, oh, this is happening because how I was showing up maybe just 5 minutes ago. And it gets fun when you start to recognize things happening around you like that.
It does.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Shako, I want to take this time to really honor you. Thank you so much for the amazing work that you do out there, for having done the work on yourself. And I'm pretty sure you're still on this ongoing journey of deepening this work every single day. And thank you for being this beautiful, loving presence for everyone that you interact with. I just want to thank you on behalf of everyone that tuned in today, that will be tuning in later. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, Miko, my absolute pleasure. And thank you for creating such a beautiful space to share this important and beautiful message. You're doing an amazing job. And I can see not just through your social media and this podcast, but from the energy that you carry yourself with. This is our first conversation. And I can sense just intuitively, not logically, that you carry and embody this beautiful, divine, feminine love and energy that we're speaking about here. So thank you as well.
Thank you so much. And please share with our audience how they can stay connected with you and continue to learn from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that opportunity. So I'm fairly easy to find. It's my full name, Shako T. Lokman, which you'll see the spelling in the podcast here. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook. So if you found me through the podcast, mention Miko and I'll be there for you.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for everyone that take this time to tune in. And please share this with anyone in your life that you know can absolutely benefit. So until next time, we'll see you again. Take care.